Hello, everyone. This is Ronnie. Welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. And today I am joined by a good friend, Maisie Macdonald, who is a holistic practitioner of and specifically teaching meditation, doing various healing activities that we'll talk more about, and is a raw food chef and helps out with the UK Fruitfest and has some of her own creations on Raw Food with Maisie, the Instagram account. So you can check that out and follow that. And Maisie will be giving presentations, workshops at UK Fruitfest this year. Just a quick plug for that, 26th of July to the 2nd of August, fruitfest.co.uk for more information on that. And uh, Maisie is also someone that is well traveled, has been traveling around to different places, maybe partly in search of some good sunshine and fruit and other things. We'll find out more about that. Um, but Maisie, is there anything else you'd like to say about yourself to introduce yourself to the audience?
That was great. It's lovely to be here. Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah. And Maisie, you've been part of the festival for the last 3 years, basically. And been a really important part and made a big difference. So obviously, I want to thank you for that. Um, so a lot of the time, the first question I ask people is your background because most people don't start off, you know, with a more of a raw foods diet or being a meditation teacher and all these kind of things. So what's your background? Like, how were you brought up? Your diet, your lifestyle, growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I obviously wasn't born into raw food, like most people, like you said. We had a relatively well-balanced diet. My mum cooked a lot, so it definitely wasn't a highly processed diet. I decided to be a vegetarian when I was 8. So I haven't had meat or fish in my life for a long time. And then eventually, I think it was 2018, I want to say, I did the Veganuary challenge, which is really big in UK and across the world now, I believe, where you just do vegan for a month in January, and tried it out and felt great and was like, oh, this is super easy. And then obviously you start researching into the dairy industry, the egg industry, and think, okay, I'm going to stick with that. And then just before my first UK Fruit Fest 3 years ago, I found some of your videos, your interviews, and was really interested in the raw food movement and just thought I'm gonna give it a go. More so, I didn't have any major health crisis. It just felt like the next natural progression in terms of upgrading my health pretty much and just giving my body the best that I absolutely can. And when you listen to all of the science, it makes sense on a lot of levels, and it's not just a logical decision, it's also a feeling. It's like, this feels good, this feels like the right thing to be doing for me in this time. And then tried it, loved it, came to the festival. I think I'd been raw for about a month and a half when I came to the first festival, and then was like, oh, all these healthy, happy people, this is amazing. And that education really solidified my feelings about the diet and gave me a really strong community to then continue on this path since then. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you mentioned it seems like maybe more of an ethical choice and an intuition and things. But when you were growing up, did you have any particular health issues or concerns um, at all?
Um, Nothing major. So I was a bit more, I guess, about my background. That was quite brief. I realized I've just skipped like a large chunk of my life. My background is in hospitality, so I was a pastry chef for about 7 years in various restaurants and hotels, in events in London and around the country. And so my diet was appalling. Working in kitchens in general, Like growing up, I had quite a good diet, but then as soon as you hit that working age, early 20s, I was doing, 16 hours shifts on a regular basis. And I was drinking cans of Monster and eating cake. That was the most of my diet. I did also have disordered eating patterns growing up. So on both ends of the spectrum. So I would also go very long periods of not eating anything and then just eat awfully. So very unbalanced in lots of ways, which and I can tell looking back now, when you look back at pictures of yourself and you go, oh my god, like I don't look healthy. I don't look there's a certain vitality you see in people, I think, when they're doing the raw food thing. And that was definitely missing 100%. Like there was just like a lackluster, like my skin, like everything just felt, like dull. I guess there's like a dullness. So although I didn't have any, like my digestion was never good, I bloated and just feeling kind of just low energy. If I think of all the substances I would need to get through the weeks and the days, like so much caffeine, like I mean, I can definitely think of days I would have had like 6 or 7 coffees, like easily. And that's like what keeps you, like sugar and caffeine, basically, which is obviously not good for your system. And then it's only when you come off those substances you realize how dependent you are and how much they're affecting your moods, your health, your energy. So it was more of just a general not feeling my best, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I think there's two sides of the spectrum there. Of there's some people who they don't really change their diet until, or maybe they never do, but a lot of people never do. But some people, it takes like health crisis sort of thing to happen, and then they might consider it. And but for other people, it's more the well-being side. It's more of the thing of I'm not feeling good. It's not necessarily that you're sick or that you're not well, but it sounds like for you, it was like you just weren't feeling your best or didn't feel like you were um, thinking that. Was there a particular moment where you thought, I need to make some changes here?
I think it really was a natural progression. It definitely aligns with my spiritual journey as well. Like when I definitely, on the spiritual side, I had like this pivotal kind of moment and time in my life where that kind of just clicked into place. And it was probably about a year and a half after going vegan. That's when that spiritual growth happened. And then again, after going traveling and having more spiritual experiences, doing my yoga teacher training, that's when the raw food came. So I feel like the two came hand in hand. And it's also performance related. I think I do really care about whatever I'm doing for work. I've done a lot of different things in my life. I want to show up and be the best that I can. I want to go and be able to run around and to be mentally focused and just on point all of the time, or as much as I can be as a human being in the world we live in. And raw food gives me that. I mean, my first summer raw, I was working 3 jobs in hospitality. I was doing a lot of hours, but I was basically living on bananas. I would literally go to the supermarket. I had oranges and bananas. I would just buy loads, and I was basically walking around from job to job with this like giant bag of just bananas. And it was brilliant, and I could do it all pretty easily, really, with no negative side effects. Feeling pretty good on pretty much fruit, and I was like, wow, like I could not have done this on the diet I was on. Like no way.
Yeah, so kind of performance and stuff. Yeah, I'm curious about the spiritual journey you talk about. Were you brought up religious or anything like that? Were you atheist or any kind of background like that?
No, not at all, actually. On my mum's side, the family is Jewish. My dad's side isn't religious at all, but that didn't really. There was kind of hints of it, so there's always been an interest in religion, but it was definitely not a part of our upbringing.
Uh,
Um, I did go to church a few times, but it never really resonated with me that much. I Yeah, I guess you could say I found spirituality through, I mean, I think there were certain doors got unlocked. I've always been into astrology has been like a huge part of my life and something that I really, really love. And so that kind of, I was open-minded in that way. And then I started getting into crystals, and then I started getting into yoga and meditation. And then that is kind of really what made, yeah, it made me go down that path. And now I'm just kind of into, like, I love aspects of all of the religions. I think there's amazing teachings everywhere. And I I love Hinduism because I've spent a lot of time in India. I think there's a lot about that culture, but then there's a lot about all of the, I think the religions have aspects to them I really resonate, and I like being able to take the teachings from everywhere I can.
when did you start traveling?
Oh, 20 January 2020, which was obviously a fantastic time to start traveling. That
And has it been mostly India you've traveled to, or is different places?
So I did 6 months in Cyprus, was my first trip, my first solo trip.
Oh well.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional. I got stuck there because of the situation. And then I came back, and then was in the UK, then was around the UK for a while, and then I went to India, and then a bit of time in Thailand, a bit of time in Sri Lanka. And that's most of my like traveling, long-term traveling. Yeah.
Good, good. We'll probably get back to that. So the your background is as a in hospitality. Um, that sounds like quite a tough gig in a sense, like quite a lot of hours, quite a lot of stress and pressure, sort of hitting deadlines and all that all the time, and lots of busyness, and then and a lot of people to work with. I'm imagining like a cramped environment, hot environment in a kitchen and stuff. What was your experience of it like?
Yeah, that. That exactly.
There's a
Some
reputation of chefs being like really angry as well, but I don't know if that's just
Oh yeah, I've had plates thrown at me. I've had people shouting in my face. I've had a lot of just anger.
an actual plate thrown at you.
Yeah, actual plate.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. This guy was the in certain in that this was in a very high end. This is in a Michelin star place, so it was quite high end, and the standards are very high, and they, because of the talent of certain people, they tend to accept the crazy that goes with it, because this guy was producing very, very, very good creative food. And it was great. It was great. But at the same time, he was an absolute, let's say, um, I don't want to use words, but I don't want to, he just, I'm not trying to be,
A less than ideal person.
he wasn't very good at managing people or
Right.
managing his energy or his anger, and couldn't tolerate, I think, low tolerance. I think you notice that a lot of people in those that have high standards and high attention to detail tend to have low tolerance
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
things that doesn't meet their standards,
Right.
and that upsets them on a deeper level, and
Yeah.
then it just,
Yeah. Yeah. I was
yeah.
curious. I'm curious about the Michelin star thing because prior to getting into raw foods and all that, I used to be really into the whole um, chef thing, Michelin star. So I used to buy chef books sometimes, and I got fascinated by that for a while. Tried to learn to cook more, And I would look at restaurant reviews of like where I live in Glasgow, and I would try and visit these like supposedly great restaurants and stuff. Some of them were probably pretty good. Um, and I remember having this feeling of going to these places that were really highly reviewed places, and the service was amazing. Like it was different level of service totally, but just buying like something and just thinking it just tastes like food. Like somehow I thought it was going to be something magical or different, like some other level. And same thing if I made my own food from scratch, it was pretty good. But I was always thinking it's just a pizza. Even though I made it for it took 3 hours to make it or whatever. It's at the end of the day, it's a pizza, and I was like, okay. I started to get less and less intrigued by that, but I'm curious about uh, the Michelin star thing and that kind of level of service. Do you think it's really worth it in terms of is the food that much better, or is it as you said there, the creativity of it? Is it the way it's displayed? Is it the service? What's actually important there?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think there is a level of professionalism in a lot of, especially, you know, the industry is getting better. There are places that are well run with kind, caring owners. Like this still exists, but it's not the whole picture. Like there are places you can work safely and happily. They do exist. Um, just yeah, just putting it just for a balanced perspective. Um, and I I think there is a level of care and passion and technical skill that is incredible. It's like watching anyone that's honed in on their craft and worked on it and really cares what they do, whatever their discipline is. I think there's a magic in that, which I really respect and enjoy working with people that are really passionate about what they do. And I think that's beautiful, and it would be a shame for that industry to disappear completely. You could do that with anything. I mean, any kind of restaurant experience. It doesn't have to be traditional French food. You could have that experience with raw food if you wanted to. It's just having a place with creative people that care about what they do and are putting out something,
Mm,
so
mm,
you could have an amazing experience.
yeah. And with moving towards a more vegan, more raw diet, do you miss any of that? Do you think you're missing out, or um, can you bring some of that with you into the way you eat now?
Um, I know I don't feel like I'm missing out. Um, I think one of my shifts I've had probably in the last sort of 6 months really, and my mindset is I'm not, I'm kind of trying to release any labels surrounding my diet and what I eat. And I think this can and can't and should and shouldn't. And I think these words can be really challenging for people, and they can create this restriction. So in terms of when people now ask me what I eat, I say, oh, I eat a lot of fruit. That's what that's what I say. And like, yeah, my diet is, I'd say, 95% raw. I'm 100% is, I'm trying to release that whole everything has to be 100%, 100% of the time, because I think on a mental level that can be quite damaging sometimes for some people, depending on your situation. And if I wanted a pizza, I would I would have it. But the reality is I don't want it. And if I did one day, I would eat it and I'd say, okay, I've had it. That's fine. But I'm not carrying it with me. And it's not, I think by removing the restriction, it's always a choice. Like I'm choosing raw foods and I'm choosing fruit and I'm choosing the best thing that I feel that I can have for my body, because I do love it. And I don't feel like I'm
Right.
missing out. Yeah.
I remember it's funny, I've been coming to these clips recently of Marco Pierre White, who's quite a famous chef, and he was Gordon Ramsay's mentor, and apparently a bit of a crazy guy as well. But he's got these clips of he must be working with some kind of produce company because he's got fruit and he'll be talking about the various types of fruit and saying what he does and uses with them. And his philosophy was always Mother Nature is the artist and we're just trying to like you can't improve on the produce, you can only bring out more of the flavor of it or whatever. So that was the way he kind of thought about it, which I quite like. But um, I've personally felt like I've had more satisfying food experiences with fruit and with raw foods than I had before because I don't have the downside after it or the kind of feeling of maybe being a bit tired after it or sluggish or and I'm I'm still amazed if ever I'm with people at a conventional restaurant and they're eating whatever they're eating, it always kind of amazes me the effect that food has on people that they don't seem to even realize or acknowledge. So people are eating stuff and their nose starts to run, their eyes are sometimes watering, their face is kind of going red, they're coughing, they're uh, you can tell that they've got like heartburn. Some of them are mentioning that they're oh, I'm going to pay for this tomorrow. I'm gonna, and saying all these phrases that are like discomfort, like obvious signs of discomfort and kind of distress a little bit. Um, and I'd be curious, what are some of your, and you've done some traveling, if you had some good fruit experiences around the world, some good raw food experiences, and any particularly special experiences?
I love that. Yeah, there's yeah, loads. Yeah, endless. My God, the stone fruit that we had at I think it was last year at the fruit festival. Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. Actually, I did the Austrian fruit festival last year, and the stone fruit there was like perfectly ripe peaches. I think they're like way up there. They're like way up there. I mean, I've had amazing. I love durian. I think like it's amazing. And I had some amazing durian in Thailand last year. This year, what year is it?
Did
This
you
year
did you enjoy the Nam Dok Mai mangoes? Did you try those in Thailand?
wasn't mad. I think I was a little bit spoiled coming from India.
Oh,
The,
right, okay.
the mangoes in India are like there's so many and they're incredible. So I didn't really get into the Thai mangoes as much. Maybe it just wasn't the right time. Um, but yeah, no, the Indian, all of the Indian mangoes are just yeah.
I'd love to pick your brain on. I was in India years ago before I was in fruitarian or whatever, but I still liked fruit back then. And the guy I was traveling with said, don't buy stuff from the market. It'll be whatever you'll get an infection or something. So I didn't really eat much fruit and actually got sick. And then when I got sick, my another guy bought me mangoes. Ironically, like that's what people do when you get sick, give you fruit. But um, so any tips on that, or is it usually perfectly okay to just buy the fruit and eat it as is? Do you need to wash it, or any worries on any of that in India? I don't want to be offensive to Indians, but I'm just saying, I'm just asking for practical reasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think a few people have asked me that as well. Definitely that comes up. Is like, is it safe? What's the cleanliness like? Um, I mean, I've been ill a couple of times, but from like once was kombucha, which is ridiculous. And it was just a bit of a slightly dodgy homemade kombucha, I think. And I can't remember what the other, I think greens that I didn't wash very well.
Right, okay.
100% my fault.
Yeah.
Um, but it over the last, I mean, 3 years, twice is not bad, I think. And that is eating from the markets, from the stalls. Even salads in restaurants have always been fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy. I mean, I'm normally like a bicarb in the sink with some water, give it a rinse kind
Right.
of pet. So nothing like intensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and if it was like, yeah, like stuff like grapes, I'm gonna be a bit more like aware and wash them a bit better. Anything you're eating the skin off, but anything like mangoes or watermelons or anything like any, I, you know, no, I'm definitely not that careful, I would say, and I've been fine.
And so you think the mangoes in India were better than the ones in Thailand?
Yeah, for me
Oh
personally,
wow,
yeah.
wow. That's good to know.
Alfonso's, Kessers, like they're just
Yeah,
like
yeah. So what have been some of the benefits for you going vegan, going raw foods? Any particular things you've noticed and things that you have been an improvement to you?
energy levels is 100%,
Uh-huh.
100%. Um, sleep is still important, definitely 100%, but I can do much better on less sleep if that's what happens in life, which happens because life happens to us. Um, my digestion, I've generally got quite sensitive digestion. Um, if I was, I'm very when I'm on 100% fruit digestively, it's the best. Like no doubt about it. The issue for me with that is then it becomes harder to introduce anything else into your diet because your body everything relaxes a bit. You get very used to just digesting fruit. So I try and have more like greens and vegetables because I think it's good to keep them in your diet just for the diversity and just to keep your gut working
Hmm.
a little bit more. But yeah, digestively, like if I do a week like at the festival and I'm really mostly just on fruit, then I'm just like, yeah, I feel great. I feel great. My skin's better. I tan much better, which is brilliant. I definitely used to burn quite easily, and touch wood, I
Okay, so do you use any skin protection, any sun cream, anything like that? Really?
no. You can get
Oh,
back to me in 30 years and see how I look, but the I go in the sun for as long as it feels good, and then
okay,
when my skin's getting hot, um, I cover up or get out of the sun.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. And moisturizing in general, I think, is great for your whole body. It definitely improves. Like you're moisturizing from the inside with the fruit, but using something on the outside, I think helps to keep your skin like in good condition.
Nice. Well, that's great. And you mentioned the energy being a benefit, and you do some energy. I think you do energy healing, energy clearing, energy therapy. Uh, I've got a fascination with this idea of energy, right? And you know, it's something that kind of grabs people in different ways. But what's your background with that, experiences with it? Do you have any particular things that happened to you that made you start to go down that route?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's an amazing path for growth for everyone. I mean, I believe ultimately it's a part of everyone's path at some point in the time scale of their life as a human over, if you believe in past lives, that kind of thing. I believe we'll keep coming back until we've achieved whatever it is that we're supposed to be achieving. And I do believe that there comes a point where spirituality has to be a part of that. And for some people that may be this lifetime now, or it may not, it might be in a few lifetimes. I think we all have a path that we're on, and at some point we'll have to reach that where we're going inside and we're doing that deeper work and that reconnecting to what's outside of us, if that's what you believe. um yeah um I got divorced. Yeah, that was my spark. And my
I've never heard that story before. You got divorced?
have we not talked about that?
I'm not sure of it. Well, maybe you have. That's
I
it. Kind of surprises me, but
I
okay.
Yeah.
Let's. Sorry for
No,
bumping in there,
no,
but I
no,
was just.
yeah, I mean, I don't talk about it a lot because it just doesn't kind of always come up in a conversation, I guess. But um yeah, in 2019, yeah. um And so my life, as I thought it was going to be, was laid out very differently.
Wow.
And I was kind of, I was content enough with what I thought my life was going to be, but it was very, very different to what it is, very, very different from what it is now.
Right.
And so when it happened very out of the blue, it wasn't a long time coming. We'd been married for 18 months, so it was quite a quick.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did a great job of that.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. It's everything happens how it's meant to happen, if you believe that. So yeah, so it happened, and so my whole life was like blown open.
Uh-huh.
I suddenly was like, what am I going to do now? Like, what's my life? Like, I had all of these kind of options, I guess, and different paths that I didn't ever think I would have. And then I think that just energetically, there was something about that just like blew me open. And then I started getting into crystals, which again, I think very literally on an energetic level, those crystals do something to your energetic body. They change the configuration, they open pathways. I was literally walking around Brighton. I was in Brighton. It's lots of energy here as well. That definitely has an impact. I was just walking around with like pockets full of crystals. Just like absolutely vibing. And then I started doing meditation. I had no idea what I was doing. I found a random video on the internet of this woman doing this actually very intensive, which I didn't know at the time, but I was just drawn to it. This like Kundalini style, like chanting and mudras, and I like blew up my I lit, like, which is not a good idea, incense. Generally open your windows if you're burning incense inside and try and get high quality stuff. But I had all of this incense, candles, crystals, like in a very small enclosed space. and then and
it's all creating a vibe, right? Are you a vibey person?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. You don't have to fully understand what it does, but it
Yeah,
does something.
right.
Like even if I can think, I've had like a few, I guess you would say, Kundalini experiences or
Oh
awakening.
wow.
Yeah, and that was the first one. And also another one that I had was a very similar, very early in the morning, but chanting, meditating, mudras, incense, candles, like everything. Like this whole, you're adding so many different layers to the experience and sensory experiences. And it just triggers something. And then I was just gone for like 2 hours and came back and was like a different person. So
Wow.
yeah, that was kind of cool and scary. But then generally after those experiences, or in my experience, it's a feeling of everything you know is completely fallen apart, completely fallen away. And then you go through this crisis of, which is why it can be dangerous for some people, because it can send you spiraling into this place of, oh my God, what is life? Who am I? Like it literally strips something away from your being. And then after that you get through that, and then you're kind of in a different place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what could you go into? Well, I'm curious of your Kundalini experiences and
Yeah,
what that means, because that's an interesting phrase and idea, and some people would know some degree what that means. But um, I've met various people that have said different things about that. What were your experiences?
it's fascinating and mystical, and at the same time it's not. It's it's like anything, when you understand it, like the raw food diet, people are like, but how can it work? And then you're like, oh well, this does this and fruit does this and blah blah blah, and then you're like, oh yeah, you're right, that makes total sense. It's magic at the same time. Like so many people are like, God, you just eat fruit, how are you alive? um the Yes, Kundalini, it's an energy rising within your body. your energetic body, but you can also feel it. I believe they're all linked. You can feel it in your physical body. So often it can literally feel like heat rising up your spine, is the best way to put it. The kind of story is that it works with the chakra system. So the story is that your energy is dormant in the archetype is like a snake. So the energy dormant as it's this snake in the base of your spine. So you imagine there's a snake hanging out at your lower back in your root chakra, and it's kind of waiting to rise its way up through the chakras. And as it does, as that energy rises, essentially what it's like an unblocking. So you're unblocking and activating each of these energy centers, and each of these centers are linked to various parts of your being on an energetic level, but it also affects you on a very real day-to-day life physical level, as each chakra has different associations with your life. So by pushing that energy up, what you're doing is you're clearing and creating space in all of these different layers of your being.
Fantastic. And physically, did that feel blissful, good, uncomfortable, scary? Any
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
all of the above. Yeah. There's definitely, I think when I had like my last kind of experience, I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to be on my bliss cloud, and that was it. It's very difficult if you have a life to hold down, because you're very content just sitting doing nothing, like sitting in a field. Like I could have just sat in a field for months and and just been like very, I mean, I basically kind of did, but you just want to be. I think that was the really, like, I think that last one really, it was just the sense of just wanting to be. And that, but then it's not good for being productive. It's not good for being a part of society as we know it, because it depends how you want to live your life, you know.
I've had a few moments where, just as you're saying, like, just being was so pleasurable that you didn't want to move out of that. Didn't want to move out of that. It's just like, this is so fantastic. Like this. Didn't even want to think. Didn't want anything to distract from that moment.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
mean,
great.
probably had, even if you're not conscious of it, you will have had, you know, you're on this lifestyle, Ronnie, and you've got this, you're on this path of, you know, exploration on a spiritual level, whether it's conscious or not, and that's will have shifted things in your energy system and your chakras, and you will be clear, and you may not have had these, you know, it may not be always super conscious, but there would have been things that have opened you up and put you in these states of being that could be related to your Kundalini.
Well, my fruit experiences that I've had a number of people say the same thing, that they started eating a lot of fruit, and I don't have these commonly anymore. But in my first year of eating fruit, maybe even first 6 months, I would have these moments of, I describe it as like waves of gratitude, when I would have like a big fruit meal or bananas or whatever, and then I would just be like this just amazing gratitude for everything. And then walking around just thinking life is beautiful, everything's beautiful. Like, and those kind of things made me really feel like, as hard as this is, as difficult as it is to change your diet, like this is the right path. Like this really feels good when it feels good. And have you ever had the fruit gratitude waves situation?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think, and it's like you said before about Marco P.I. White talking about this connection to nature, and this, you know, we can't make it better. And there, I think there is that connection to source or something outside of us, because fruit is so much closer to that energy, that home energy that we all kind of come from, if that's what you believe. So there is this almost spiritual connection through the fruit. I believe 100%. Yeah.
You mentioned some disordered eating patterns in your past, um, and do you have any idea, like, what, any insight for people who might be going through that, of what causes that, and what was your experience in particular, and what triggers it, and how do you maybe get over it if it is something you can get over?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's complex. I think it's different for each individual, what it is that's a specific trigger for them. Um, I know Rosalind Graham, who is the speaker at the UK Fruitfest, does a lot of this type of work, and there's definitely some videos of her talking about this, and she says some very insightful things. I When I was younger, I had very low self-esteem. I was very uncomfortable with myself, with my body. And I thought being thinner would fix that. So I was hell-bent on, and I can be quite a full-on person. So I mean, if I set a goal and I set my mind to something, I'm tunnel vision. I'm like, so that can be directed into obviously something that's going to be positive or not. And so I channeled that energy into just eating as little as I humanly could and exercising as much as I possibly could. And even when I was at a very low weight, I had no idea of how thin I was, and it didn't register, and it didn't make me happy. It didn't make me happy. And I think I'm very lucky in terms of I'm good at putting myself back into balance, even when it's, and I think some people can do that, and some people maybe need other people around them to be like, hey, something's not quite right. And I kind of caught myself before it got too far and realized it wasn't healthy and it wasn't good for me. But so I guess in that experience, I've had maybe a different experience to a lot of other people who need maybe interventions. But yeah, it was definitely
I think you said,
self-esteem.
you said something fascinating there, which was you had a goal, right? So whether it was weight loss or whatever, you had this goal that was attached to, I guess, the idea that would lead to a particular outcome of, and I think there's something interesting in that, because we do, like, your mind can get really set on a goal and a target. And something that I've found in the raw foods world, and probably in eating in general and in alternative diets, is that people can create goals that are just either unsustainable or like impossible to make happen. So if someone has a goal like that, and there's different opinions and ideas on this, but I personally don't think people can live on sunlight or like no food or chi or whatever. I don't ascribe to that, right? I mean, it's a miraculous thing. It's like if someone flying or something. In my opinion, if you can levitate, okay, maybe you can live without food, but like, so, but there's people that set up goals like that, and I don't know, like their mind fixates on that's what I want to go towards for whatever reason. That's what they want to do, and they just start going down that path, and they're trying to figure out a path towards that, or a path towards that happiness or that feeling of fulfillment with losing weight or whatever. And it becomes like a never ending cycle, because there is no fulfillment, there is no like outcome. And they just get caught in this loop of and it becomes a very shameful thing, where because they're not getting anywhere, they've set up. And this is, I've had sometimes people talking to me about or asking me about Breatharianism and all that stuff, and I've explained to them, like, it's an impossible goal that you think that someone's going to tell you there's a path towards, and then when you find out there is no path towards it because it's impossible to achieve it, you're going to start to think it's you that's the problem, and it's going to naturally lead to depression, because when we can't get towards our dreams in life, our goals, when we can't make movement towards that, we start to feel very bad about that. and that leads us to create probably to worse to other bad actions and more extreme actions and stuff. So I'm fascinated about how the mind does that and the connection there, and um, I'm wondering if that is a part of eating disorders, because I think there are really dangerous things. Always something that I'm very concerned about with the message at the festival, with what people are sharing, like triggering eating disorders or triggering that kind of behavior is to me a uh very dangerous thing. And even like fasting and stuff, I get the fact that most people can go and do a fast and be fine and all that, but that's not everyone. Not everyone's going to take it that way or going to hear that message in the right way. And um, I don't know. I'd like to hear any reflections you've got on what I've just said there, or anything that's inspired by that from yourself.
Yeah, there's, I think you're right. When you've been in the community, especially as long as you have, is you see a lot of people going on these paths of very, this tunnel vision, this is what I want, and 9 times out of 10 it doesn't necessarily go the way that they intended, and it's not necessarily a positive outcome. And I think it's always in I think self-awareness is probably the most invaluable tool. I just think the most invaluable tool that we have, really, for our own lives, and having the ability to be able to go within and be really honest with yourself about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it and the intention behind it is huge. And you can absolutely do this lifestyle in a really healthy, balanced way with the right mindset. Absolutely. You can do anything in life with a more aware mindset or a less aware mindset, and understanding the behaviors behind it can just really help you fix some behaviors that may not be helping you. You might be getting good results in the short term, and it might be seemingly beneficial on a physical level, but in the long term, your mental health is so important.
Uh-huh.
And managing and understanding your mental health and your motivations and your drivers, I think, for your well-being is huge. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. What are some of the mistakes that you've made in specifically, I suppose, on your health and diet journey that you can share with others?
Oh, that's a great question. Talking about fasting, um, I I I do like fasting. I've done fasting. Um, I I did a 22-day fast last year, water fast. I think I definitely went on longer than I should have done. Uh,
Interesting.
I think for me, and that's one of those things, my tunnel vision tendencies, I was going longer than I should have done because I wanted to see what happened. Partly is experimental, and I wanted to achieve. I was like, no, I can go further, I can do it, I can do it. And instead of, you lose the objectivity of, I can do it, but do I need to do it? Is it the best thing for me, really, right now? Um, on a spiritual level, it was amazing. Like, it did really open me up, but that happened within the first week. Um, and after that first week, I didn't. It's hard. It's impossible to know on a physical level how it changed me. Like, I'm never going to know if it was positive or negative. That's the reality. I wasn't tracking any biomarkers or anything like that. Um, but I definitely didn't feel brilliant the further it got. So I would
Yeah.
say if I'd done a week, I would have had really good results and not have had I had a very long recovery period. It took me a long time to get my strength back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there is. So there's one thing. There's one thing that comes to mind there is the fact that um I think that we have a limited ability to really feel what's going on. So, like you're saying, you weren't tracking anything in particular. There could be amazing benefits to that that you'll never even know about because we don't really know what's going on inside us. And there's only like certain people like athletes and certain they can tell because they really study themselves and they know their results and their performance. So I've heard people who were like before a fast, they had particular results. They did a fast. Later on, they recovered, and then they were much better as an athlete. So they saw, they could tell that difference. A lot of other people don't know the exact difference because if we're relying on feelings and what we know about ourselves, there's probably a lot of stuff within us that we don't have a physical feeling to determine like what happens. So that's the thing. Like there's probably incredible healing that goes on and strengthening and stuff that was gonna happen that has stopped or reversed or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily you don't necessarily know, and that's one. So if you don't have those obvious things, but at the same time, there is that side of fasting that people do take a while to recover, especially as you're saying when you go longer like that. There's people that have sometimes said they've taken like 6 months to recover or like and that can be a challenge for a lot of people when especially if that's an important thing to them. Uh, and what in terms of the fast, you did it on your own, is it,
Yeah.
or did you? Yeah, and is there a kind of stages that you go through that you can describe?
Uh, I I mean, I stages.
Well, a lot of people say like maybe the first 3 days is quite difficult, then their kind of appetite goes away,
Mm,
and and the first week is kind of okay, and then after that it gets more difficult again. And well, I
yeah,
don't know exactly, but
yeah, that sounds pretty correct. I mean, I didn't jump straight into a 22-day fast like I've done over the last however many years. I did, I guess, intermittent fasting, which is a whole conversation, but that's my style of eating generally, and I've been doing that for many years. And then I was doing 1, 2, 3, 5-day fasts, a little bit of dry fasting, and then yeah, definitely after day 3, I think you settle in and it becomes normal. um and then I think it is waves. There is definitely waves of like realizations and happiness and peace. I felt very peaceful. There was a lot of feeling very peaceful and just very still, and that was really beautiful. um
do you have any unusual like some people have um uh it's too personal, I guess, but people have stuff coming out of them or like the tear like I've heard of a woman that she had like yellow tears coming out of some kind of liquid that she'd taken in the past or like stuff oozing out. I don't know, that's all too much,
I
but
want no I wanted that
yeah,
experience.
right. Yeah.
Wanted to like dredge up all this stuff that could potentially be in my body and just, like deep clean,
But
really.
it's quite a good sign if that doesn't happen.
I mean,
Did you here's the thing. Did you have any injuries from the past come up again? Because some people have injuries that have not fully healed, and during a fast it comes up again, like so their knees, their ankles, their hips, or whatever, and it becomes painful during the fast, and that's a sign of healing happening, and then it disappears. Or what? Did you have any of that kind of healing going on?
That's interesting. I not that I'm aware of. I I did have a wrist injury that kind of I've had more recently. And interestingly, I was resting it for a long time, because not a long time, for a while, but because I thought that was the right thing to do. and it didn't seem to be getting better, and I couldn't really do, like, it wasn't awful, but I couldn't do yoga in the way that I wanted to. But actually now, since I'm now working it more and strengthening it, it seems to have, touch wood, it seems to have gotten better, which is interesting. So maybe it's just a bit weak and it just needs a bit more working out. It could be that. I'm not really sure. But no, during the fast, nothing that springs to mind. No.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about some of the presentations that you're offering at the festival and workshops and things. So I don't know, we've not really put the schedule together, but you've some of the titles here: how to cultivate a meditation practice and why you should, how spiritual practice can enrich your life, shadow work, what it is and how you do it, your intro to understanding your astrological birth chart, how to write affirmations at work, and recording a personalized guided meditation for growth and alignment are some of the offerings for the festival. However, we start with the meditation side of things. Why is that important to you, and why do you think other people should embrace that?
Absolutely. And also, if anyone likes the sound of any of those, let us know.
Of course, yeah.
Help us decide which
Yes.
ones to do.
Yes.
Meditation. Life is way better when I meditate. It's like as simple as that. Like my day, if I meditate, and my day, if I don't meditate, my experience is so different. And it is genuinely every single time I take the time to really, and when I say time, we're not talking about, yes, if you want to meditate for hours a day, there are definitely going to be benefits on some level. But realistically, even 5 minutes, like literally 5 minutes, can change your life. 20 minutes is going to be amazing. Like just taking that time to help process. It's like we've got all this baggage in our minds. A lot of it's mental, this mental clutter. And it's like your garbage bin, right? It's like it's full. It's really full. And it's really hard trying to live and carry around all of that garbage. As soon as you give it an opening to release it, as soon as you're like, oh, I'm just going to tip a bit of that out, it's like, oh, there's all this space now. I'm way less cluttered. There's, I feel cleaner, I feel happier. And the more regularly you empty that garbage and the more thoroughly you empty that garbage, the healthier and happier and more clean you're going to feel. And you, like, my decisions, like I make better decisions. I'm much clearer. I'm much more aware. I'm much more present. I'm much more grounded. And I just think you do it to the capacity that you have that fits in with your life. But just having any kind of practice is just so beneficial for me.
Absolutely. And obviously it fits in with a healthier lifestyle. It's something that is, I believe, shown quite and agreed upon quite now as being a healthy practice, as a practice that is beneficial for people's health.
Yeah, huge. It's huge. And that kind of, I guess, ties into like the affirmation thing again. Like it's this aligning yourself with the energy that you want to be in. Because every decision that we make, every day of every moment of our lives, we have a choice to align ourselves with a certain way of being. And it's not about right or wrong. It's just about for me, I believe it's a place of what do you want? Like when we get to a place where we realize we have choices, it's like, okay, how do I want to show up in the world? What do I want to achieve? And for some people that are goal orientated, you can just work backwards and you can be like, hey, this is my goal. This is what I want to achieve. In order to get that goal, what energies do I need to align myself with? And then you can be like, okay, how can I bring that into my life? And then by affirming that and constantly bringing yourself back to this place of, this is what I want, this is how I need to be, that's gonna, without you even realizing or trying, it's gonna get you to that place, that goal that you want. And I think that's kind of when you realize you can, if you want, create this life in this way with its vision. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. And astrology, you mentioned earlier before you could share some about that.
I
Uh,
love astrology. Because it's like the only thing in my life that's been consistent. It's like, it's magic, and it gives you such deep insight into yourself and into other people.
mhm,
And
mhm.
also with using it with other people, I am someone that will ask you what time you're born. Always, everyone I meet. When you know, and for me, that's you know, it's partly it's research, but it's also I can then understand you. It's a language I understand, so I can understand you better if I know more about how you operate as a person,
Yeah.
how things might affect you, why your energy is a certain way, why you act in a way, your drivers, your motivation. I can create a better relationship with you because it's a deeper level of understanding without having to ask you 1,001 questions, which you yourself may not even know and you might not be able to answer. But I can gain a level of understanding, which I think is invaluable in creating healthy, happy connections with other people.
Mm, really cool. And shadow work, let's talk about that. That's interesting. And what does that mean?
Oh, shadow work is, I think, if you're on a spiritual path, it will come for you whether you like it or not. And I think it's often at really inappropriate moments in our life, and it's really inconvenient. And I think it's one of those things, really, the only way out is through. So, by understanding how it can show up in your life, what it might mean for you, and giving yourself some tools to actually deal with it better, it's just going to make the experience a bit less rubbish. Um, Basically, and you're going to come out a bit more unscathed than you may have done otherwise, um, which I think is huge. And especially anyone, if you're on this spiritual growth path, like, stuff is going to come up, like it is, and it's probably going to be really heavy, and it's probably going to be really difficult.
Mhm,
And you know what? Once you've dealt with it, you're going to feel incredible, and you're going to
mhm.
be in a way better place. But if you don't deal with it and you push it down and you ignore it, it's just going to come back up again at some point if you continue on this path of growth. So I think, you know, for me, those periods of shadow work are hugely important. And I know it's going to keep coming. I know it's never going to probably end. So I just need to understand how to navigate that. And I think giving other people some insights on how they can navigate it is potentially really beneficial.
Awesome. Awesome. So Maisie, let's finish off with what are some reasons to come to the fruit festival? Why should people consider coming along?
Is you're there, Ronnie? Everyone gets to meet you. That's of course. It's
That is a major benefit. Yeah, that is. Thanks for being the only person that's ever said that, by the way.
you're no, I'm sure I can't be. You're welcome. But you put so much into it, and like we do really appreciate it. And the fact is it the 11th year this year?
Yes.
That's crazy. That's amazing. Like, you carried on getting these people, creating this space for people that really have these similar interests and want to learn more and want to experience this way of living, to keep coming together. And the community is like one of the biggest things. You know, I've made some incredible friends from the fruit festival, and I hope to continue to do that. It's not only the fact, if you're interested in the education side, you get an amazing education. Speakers are fantastic. You meet great people. The fruit is amazing. You get to try these really cool raw dishes, and you get to spend a week in just a really nice part of the country. It's gorgeous. And you know, we've got beautiful trees, beautiful surroundings. The house is lovely. It's like another home. It's like going to another home for a week, and hanging out with really cool people. And I think, why wouldn't you want to do
Great.
that?
Well, thank you. And if anyone is interested in joining us at the Food Festival, it takes place from the 26th of July to the 2nd of August this year. Take action very soon. You can email me at info@fruitfest.co.uk for information, or you can go to fruitfest.co.uk, or check out our videos here on, or check out the videos on YouTube and all our social pages, all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Maisie. And well, what would you like to share with people before we go?
Just if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. That's lovely. And I hope you've gained something from it. If anyone does want to reach out, all of my tech is currently in limbo because that's the place I'm in at the moment. But I do have an email address that you're welcome to email me at if you have any questions about anything, and we can pop that down there somewhere. And yeah, just whatever stage you're on at your path, keep going. If you're here watching this video, you're already doing great, you know? And that's, I think, just be proud of where you're at and your journey, and it's magical in its own way. And if you make it to this festival or any other raw food festival, then that's also amazing, and love to see you there.
Thank you so much, Maisie, and thank you everyone for watching and listening. Please feel free to share this with anyone, and hopefully we'll see you at the festival, and we will see you in another episode of the Love Fruit podcast.